potential to be molded and made beautiful in some way and put out into the world.
And I love, you had talked to me a little bit more in depth about like your grad school experience and all of that. And one of the things though is I think that like even if the experience doesn't quite work out, and Haribol, I love that someone said Haribol, that the experience, I feel like sometimes they're just necessary experiences, right? Because sometimes the experiences that we go through that don't work out also mirror what's like not our values, right? And then teach us what's not in alignment with what we want. And I think that one of the things I've learned, and I've been really, this is like a path that I guess I've been on. So I think when I was in my early 20s, this was very much like a path I was headed towards, and then it just stopped. And then it was I would say about 5 years ago now, almost maybe, yeah, about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago. And one of the things I've started learning is to just sort of, you can't completely just flow and not make a plan. Like you have to have a plan. But, the things that are going to work out end up working out because you need to learn that lesson and it needs to further it and you need to not fight against it. And so, I think, working with me, I'm sure you've seen, especially with the business stuff, I have this habit of like needing things to fit into a box. So when we started with the business coaching, I was like, but I need a brand first, and I need a name, and I need a website, and I need everything to all make sense instead of this, like, just flow with it and do things, and then things will happen and it will all happen organically. But you have to have a plan, right? Like you have to have an idea of what you want to do. You have to know what you're doing. You can't just be like, hey, I'm going to start a business, woohoo, and that's the end of it. I mean, there has to be work that you put into it, but it's the flow and going with that I think makes a big difference as well. And feeling that ability to say like, okay, like if it's not in alignment, it's not going to happen. And I'm a big believer that, as long as we're moving in the will of God, Goddess, as long as we're moving within the will of our soul contract, our sacred contract, and we just kind of keep asking and calling out, like just allow us to keep moving in that will, then the things that are meant to fall away will fall away. The things that are meant to come to us will come to us. That job that we really think that we wanted when we applied for it, that doesn't happen, then you look back a little while later and you're like, oh, good thing it didn't happen. And all of those things end up working out if we're willing to trust that, look for the lesson in every experience and then just keep growing from it. And sometimes things are a mirror and sometimes things come up. And I've had so many weird, especially since of all this, like so many interesting, like I know this person and then I didn't realize they know this person. And then I end up working with this person because they knew this person. And it's like you build this, I get shocked sometimes by how the universe just like works. And you're like, wow. It's all working, but you have to trust it, right? And I think I'm starting to learn, this is really hard for me, the more we try to control our circumstances and the more we try to we can make plans, and I think it's important to have an idea of what you want, but I also think it's important to check in with our intuition and to say, okay, is this a plan that is like a surface, it's a head plan, it's a brain plan, it's a mental plan because it makes sense and it's something that is like the next logical step? Or is it something that when I really like think in my gut, like, do I get excited? Does it make me feel like, yes, this is absolutely right, like this is the right thing to do? Or do you get all the anxiety? And as an anxious generally in life person, which part of that I'm sure is born from just being an empath, which is something I learned and I wish I knew when I was like 6 and nervous all the time, that a lot of being anxious is that taking in of all the emotions and the energies and all of that of the other people and worrying about everything else that's happening in the world. But it's the things that take away that anxiety. Like when I make a decision or I think like, okay, this is the plan, and it's like, oh, I feel really good about that. Those tend to be the things that work out, and not so much the things you push. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like when you say you said yes, it sounds like you were really just like, okay, like I'm going to open the door for this. And yeah, you did things. You actively stopped working in your other job. You actively started working at a yoga studio. You actively made the choice to go to Swiha. I mean, you had to make choices and decisions and things, but you also made the choice to choose this specific grad school that you went to, and that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew that, and you weren't just like, well, I started it, I have to keep doing it. You were like, not in alignment, not working.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the lesson I've learned from that. And, probably learned more from that than.
Very much so. And I did a little bit like struggle with leaving when I first had left, because I was like, oh my God, am I a failure? Does this mean I can't like hang? Does this mean I can't do? And it all came down to like, really, it had nothing to do with that, because I'm like, I can write. I know I can write. I can speak. I know I can speak. I can debate, and I can talk on these topics. But what I will not accept is self-traumatizing and like sitting in spaces that were not held in a way that allowed for real dialogue and real conversation around hard topics, where it became just about pointing fingers and blaming and being angry, which is like all valid and all of that. It's just, I wanted to have those same conversations in spaces that were held in a way where everyone has a voice and everyone has the opportunity to feel held, and those spaces exist, which is why I'm so grateful to have heard the call to return to a yoga teacher training. I just finished a yoga teacher training. I just taught at the Sedona Yoga Festival.
I saw those beautiful pictures.
Because I was still struggling like internally, like how do I show up in the world doing this wellness work, doing this healing work, doing this lifestyle work that is meant to support people in living better and feeling better, when there are so many people in our world who are being held down on purpose and don't have those same resources and opportunities. And I struggled with that a lot, like, the privilege of it all and the resource of it all and all of these different things. And I just heard the call, like, go to yoga. So I went to YTT. I took a YTT at Sweetheart. It was wonderful. And what I loved about it is it really gave me the container to like pull myself back together and to see the truth of the circumstance and the situation. And when it all ended, literally, I had the Sedona Yoga Fest, and the day after the Sedona Yoga Fest, I graduated the YTT program. And the Sedona Yoga Festival was this beautiful experience of just the coming together and the teaching on these like social justice topics and these experiences and these circumstances. And everyone brought so much beauty into it that it showed me like, this is the way that you get to do the work that you went to grad school for, in the spaces that are doing it in a way that is loving and kind and creating like individual and collective change and healing. And so that was just, it was so special and so magical. And I feel so much more confident and ready and like, just like ready to go back out into the world from that. It was amazing.
I love that you shared with me too. And so I love academia. I'm fairly certain that that's like the next step for me is, PhD kind of, because that's my happy place, right? Like college, academia, universities, that's just my happy place. Studying, like I could handle all the academic stress because I like academic stress, that's just me. So I don't think there's anything wrong with advancing your education. But I also love that you said, you had shared something with me, and it was along the lines of, we kind of have to be careful too when we're putting a premium on letters after your name and education and the type of, and that doesn't mean that people have not worked for those things. And that doesn't mean, but that also doesn't mean that they get to hold on to all of the knowledge.
It doesn't mean that they're the smartest person in the room. It
does not mean that they're the smartest person in the room. It doesn't
mean that they understand every single thing about the thing that they're talking about. Because about the first thing I recognized when I walked in to the academic and to the graduate school experience, and I went into the library and I was like, why don't I see these books in my library? Why is this the first time I'm ever hearing about this stuff? Why can't I get my hands on these texts without paying hundreds of dollars? And that really made me start thinking about the fact that like a lot of higher education is just holding knowledge hostage for a price. And that's unfair. And like, now that I have that, it's like, how do I bring all of this information down to everyone else who like, it's just, you shouldn't have to pay and take out all of those loans to be validated in your career. And I will tell you, like,
Right.
sitting in those circles and having these conversations, I have had better intellectual, more forward moving conversation with people in a garden than I had with people sitting in academic circles.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think that could be
that,
very true.
yeah. Yeah. And
And I
again, like,
think,
I
yeah.
also so believe in the higher education. Like, I'm in education, I teach at a college. I love college. I love academia. And I want to see it shift and change to be inclusive. And even these inclusive colleges that say they're inclusive that are really not, I want them to be more respective of the greater experience.
And not just inclusive, but, accessible. I think it's so important. Like, we talk about wanting to change the world at these fundamental levels and wanting to change the way people think and wanting to change, the populace in general in the world, and bringing in, whether it be like Shambhala or peace, or bringing in a state of balance in the world, and bringing in all these things. And a lot of those things have to do with educating people about how to human, essentially, how to be a human that can have a human experience, a soul, a spirit, having a human experience, and allow others to do the same, and respect that, and live in that world together and experience that, but in a peaceful way. And I do think that education has a really important part in that, and it starts at very young education, educating, whether it be educating on values, educating home education, educating within schools, and people being educated. But then, like you said, we can't hold that information hostage. We can't hold research and experiences and the histories and the things that we learned already and say, well, you can't learn it unless you come sit in this classroom and learn it. And so I think it's about maybe someone going out like, I would love to have a PhD in history based in women's spirituality and women's history and gender studies and all of that, but with the sole purpose of writing about it so that it's accessible, speaking about it so that it's accessible, learning it for myself so then I have the knowledge to share it with other people who could then share it with other people, and so on and so on and so on, and start conversations. And, there's some really important conversation starters in our world who I don't even know what their degrees are in. I don't know I don't know. Brene Brown could have a PhD. I don't know. But she has these really amazing ways of these conversations. But then other people, there's just so many people. And even like you had said, you had talked about graduate school. It's talking to you, the things that and the things that I've learned from you and the things that you've taught me, I don't think it would matter. I had previously no knowledge up until you shared with me that you had gone to graduate school, your level of institutional education, because really what you had was experience and life experience, and you've talked to people and you've met with people and you've collected, in a sense, other experiences, and you've learned about people. And I think it's about your emotional quotient as well, and your emotional intelligence is so important as well. So, I think that our job as teachers, because you identify as a teacher, I've always I've always fallen into roles that end up teaching. I don't know how, they just turn into that. My nature as well a little bit is to want to teach and to speak and to write and to educate a little bit. But I think, like you said, it's about not holding any of that hostage, and then making it accessible, and making the world, making all that information that we can have, and sharing it with everybody.
Yeah.
And so what's your next step? So you have the soul space, which is, I know I've seen, so jealous. I wish I lived so much closer to you. I will say, you live in such an amazingly energetic, beautiful place in Sedona and or Tempe and in that area. So you're very blessed. And I have to say, I do feel blessed that I live in Massachusetts, that I live near Salem. I can't complain. I have some friends that live in the Carolinas, and not that that's not a beautiful place, but I think it's a little more difficult sometimes for them to do this sort of work. So I think both of us are blessed in a sense that we don't have a very difficult time finding like-minded people in our communities. But you have this space that you just opened, and you've been having these beautiful, what are some of the things you've been doing there?
So we're really just amping it up and getting started. So it's mostly been one-on-one clients and you know, mostly that, but I'm now doing new moon and full moon circles. So it's every other Tuesday we're meeting. We do new moon ritual and cleansing, and then we do a full moon celebratory. We do a full moon like celebratory sound bath and Reiki bath. And so we discuss, like we release whatever we want to release, we celebrate what we want to celebrate, and then everyone gets, you know, to be in the vibrations of the juicy bowls and you
Love
know,
it.
kinds of instruments and things like that, and then get Reiki. And then the new moon is we do tea ceremony, we do intention setting, we do card pulling, like we do more of, you know, and we ride with like the energy of the moon too. So I should say like that was really the energy of the Gemini new moon and with the Cancer new moon, because Cancer is such a different sign and it carries such different energy. It's water, it's emotion, it's creation, it's the mother. Who knows what that new moon ritual will be, but it's, you know, it shifts with the energies of the astrology. And then obviously I see one-on-one clients, but I'm actually about to launch a mentorship and a new live coaching program called the Intuitive Lifestyle Incubator. And so the mentorship is for anyone who's really looking to develop their intuitional skills and resources. So what that looks like is you have one-on-one calls with me, you have a group call with me and the other people who are mentoring with me. And then we have an astrology call where I teach you and we all learn about astrology. And then we have another group call that is all focused on just general intuition and developing intuition as well. So that's about to launch in July. And then I also have the Intuitive Lifestyle Incubator, which is an 8-week incubator course where we meet once a week in July and August. We meet every Wednesday night for 2 hours, and then there's different levels that you can come. But essentially, we work through all the way from like, what does it take to build a life of your dreams, like, and it starts with understanding your internal value system and what's important to you, and then we build essentially through the chakra system. But I didn't specifically make it about the chakra system because while that is a foundational element in the energies of that, for people who are not familiar with it, I want this to be accessible for anyone who's interested in learning. But we really do work up the Shishuna, and we work up from root to crown and beyond.
It's hard not to integrate the chakras into things. I find it difficult not to make it part of everything that I do.
Agreed. It's just,
I don't know. It just happens.
It does. And because it's the system of the energetic body, like it's there. So, but anyway, so like, yeah, I feel you. Like, so it's there. So actually, like, if you do, there's 3 different levels that you can join the program. The first level is you're just on those 8 calls, and you get the workbook for every call, and you get the recordings. The second one, you get 4 calls with me, plus you get my chakra course. So that's just a course that actually takes you through the chakras so that you can actually learn about it if you're interested in it. And then the third tier, you have 8 calls with me, plus the 8 like group calls, and then all of the workbooks. You get my Values by Design course and the chakra course. So you can join at whatever level you feel inspired to join at. And then I'm available for like one-on-one yoga, intuitive guidance if you want I can say this, astrology chart read. That too, I do that too. So I offer all of these different types.
And the business incubator, are you still doing the business incubator?
I am not right now. That's probably not going to come back until next year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of those different ways to work with me right now, though. Yeah.
So awesome. And you work at Sweetheart right now. Are you off for the summer, or are you just off for temporary?
Oh no, I'm there. I'm the career coach. I'm the director of intuitive guidance at the college. So I meet with students and graduates all the time to help them in life and business and getting what it is that they required and get them moving forward.
And just a reminder for those who will watch later or who joined, Sweetheart is Southwest Institute of Healing Arts. It is sweetheart.edu. It is an actual location in Tempe. And I think there's certain programs you can only do in person, like, for example, yoga teacher training. Those are the massage programs. Those are things you could only do in person, but there's many programs you could do online that are extremely supportive. It is not just like, here it is, you're on your own, very supportive. I did, hi Tuna. I did one on my own. I did the Integrated Healing Arts Practitioner program, and the school is extraordinarily supportive. They are wonderful. I'm so grateful that I found them and that I was introduced to them by somebody else actually up here, ironically, who was doing toe reading on me. And I said, what the heck is this toe reading thing? And she told me all about Suiha. And so, and I don't think I would have gone. And again, it was like that flow, right? So I went to Suiha, and then I was kind of at a place where I wanted to build a business, and they sort of reached out, and I was like, but I liked Sharon. She was great. Why is there not another Sharon? And they're like, she's still here. Work with her, and it sort of, it spiraled again. And that's that just really interesting, amazing way where you just reconnect with people in these beautiful ways. And then the world becomes really small in this interesting way when you're in this kind of work. And so what's next? So all those things are what's next. Big picture. What's your big picture? Like what's your like biggest thing? Like this is the pinnacle of what I want to do as I stand here today. I'm sure it can change, but as I stand here today, what is the pinnacle of what you want to do?
So I'm gonna be honest, all of that, everything I just told you, I'm very much rooted and grounded in the here and now and like what I'm working on, and all of what I'm working on now, because like pre-COVID and quarantine, I was like deep in the Goddess Leadership Academy. Everything was Goddess focused. I was leading retreats and doing all this stuff. And then all of that through the integration space and time that I had of quarantine, like I'm coming out and it feels like everything that I'm working on feels brand new and like I'm just getting started again. So it's the same track. It's to teach, it's to support people in connecting with their intuitive gifts and to support them in living the lifestyle that they want to be living so they can have the things that they want to have, and just helping them to understand it comes down to trusting yourself and being willing to listen to yourself and to take those actions that are in alignment, which means saying yes, which means saying no, which means saying yes, realizing this isn't it, and then pivoting and changing direction, and just, honoring that piece of life, that, it is a flow. And so that is honestly, like that's the big picture. I'm just going to continue doing, seeing what happens and seeing how things go, which I know it's going to go well. I've been doing this
Yeah.
work for over 5
Yeah.
years. So this is my life. Like, this is what I do. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm an intuitive guide and lifestyle coach. I do pottery and ceramics. I have a wonderful partner. I have 5 wonderful cats, and lots of plants.
See, it's not crazy that I have 4 people who know me. She has 5.
I have 5. I have
She has 5.
AKA Monkey. I have Mama, and Mama gave birth to her litter in my house. So now I have Tuna Fish Taco, and they're my babies, and they're not going anywhere. And
No.
I know. And so it's just to continue on this and to stay rooted and grounded in my work and to continue showing up and being of service. And truly, that is the big picture. That is the experience. This is everything I want. This is why I healed, is so that I could be here now.
My triple air sign self is so in awe and so honors that grounded energy. Because every sign, I'm like Aquarius, Gemini rising, Libra moon, like just all the air signs. So I really honor that groundedness. My son has that, is a Capricorn, so he's like the only grounded one in the family. My daughter's a Sagittarius, and she's just all the fire. And my husband's Libra, so he's all airy too. So I honor that super grounded energy. And for those of you who are floating out in the ether with me, I'm sure you can appreciate that answer of like, I know where I'm at and I'm good with where I'm at right now. Because that's beautiful. And it's so nice to know that, that you feel, and there's bigger things, but it's just like an expansion of what you already are and what you're already doing. And that's just going to grow bigger and more. And that's amazing to feel that. I love that you said, like, this is what I do. Like, there's just no question. Like, this is what you do. This is who you are. This is your life. And it's just going to become more and bigger and keep happening. So I have 2 more questions. The first one is, what makes you feel empowered? When are you feeling the most empowered?
So I feel most empowered when I stop questioning myself. I'm at this point, and like, I want people to, I have not always been this person who's grounded and like here in the now. Like it's not always been this way. It is something that I have grown into, that I have been working all of these years to become, is this person who's here. And like what empowers is like me. I empower myself. Like I truly, I wake up in the morning and there are days where like, I'm like, I just want to sleep in. And then I think to myself, then you're not going to have time to do all the things you want to do. And I'm like, get out of bed. And I get out of bed and I make the bed and I sit at my altar and I get my coffee. I feed my cats. I come upstairs. I sit at my altar. I put on my 26-minute rolling ohms and I sit there until it's over. And sometimes I sit there longer, but never less than. Like that song, that's my minimum practice in the morning. And I know that whenever I skip that, I feel bad about, I don't feel good. Like I know my mind gets scattered. I'm not as productive. And I know it's because I skipped something that's so fundamentally important to who I am that
Mm-hmm.
empowers me throughout the day. So what empowers me is like the freedom of choice to actually sit down and do that and to like have the ability to do that. And like, I will tell you, I have been, my schedule right now is like, I wake up, I try to be out of bed by 6:30 so that I can do that, so that I can start working in my business by 8 and then be at the school by 11 and then have my evenings to myself to do the things that I want to do, whether it's do events or be with my partner or whatever it is. But what empowers me is knowing that I've gotten to the place where it's actually my choice and my decision. And it's like no one is telling me what to do anymore. And that feels really, really good. And that empowers me because I know that if I don't make the decision, it's very easily someone else is going to be making that decision for me. And I
Right.
don't want that anymore. And I don't want that ever again. So
I feel you. I feel you. That is the aspiration. That is the aspiration for me, is that moment where I'm like, I'm in complete control of, I mean, your clients and all of that are in control of some of your day because you have, appointments and whatnot. But that ability to
yeah,
know that like I'm getting out of bed for me and my business is a
yeah.
very big.
And that's like a big, I think, like misunderstood thing is like, oh, you own your own business, you work in your own business, you get to make your own hours. And it's like, well, you still have to work, people. Like, please do not think like you go off and become an entrepreneur and do this work and then you're just like floating around and nothing, like you don't have to do
Yeah,
anything. Like, no, I have a set schedule each and every day of the work
yeah,
that I'm doing when I'm doing it. And that includes like meeting with clients. And like I do have set times for my calls when I meet with my clients and the times that I'm doing, and that's typically Saturdays. And like that's the other thing is like, I don't work on it. I work at the school Monday through Friday, but then it's like I decide when I work at those other times in my own business. No one is forcing me to do those things. So again, it's that choice. And so the only person and the only thing that can empower me to do that is myself. Like no one
yeah,
else is coming to make me do that. And so yeah, so like my clients and stuff, sure, I have clients on my calendar, but like also that's a choice. I absolutely
yeah.
don't have that. I could do anything else, but I still have to work. So if I'm not choosing to work in this way, then I have to be choosing to work in another way to make that money. And so it all comes down to that freedom of choice, truly. Like that is what empowers me.
That's amazing. So amazing and so inspiring and such a kind of kick in the butt for me a little bit too, I think. And so then my other question is so I think we're always goddesses, right? We always have our goddess energy. We always have our goddess self. But I think that there's times where our goddess energy really shows through, right? There's certain things that we do or certain aspects of ourselves where we're like, there's the goddess. And I compare it to, I mean, I feel like you'll know what I'm talking about. Beyonce, she has Sasha Fierce, right? So her goddess self is when she's on stage and she's performing, and that's the role she sort of steps into. And while I think the goal would always be that we would want to integrate our goddess self into ourselves all the time, I also think that's a little bit unrealistic. Like I think that like actual goddesses even take a little bit of a break sometimes.
Rest in
Um,
the store, baby. Rest in the store.
Everybody has to have a rest. You gotta dim the light sometimes once in a while. But what are you doing? What is the thing that you do where you're like, yes, I am a goddess. This is goddess Sharon Rose coming through right now. What makes you that goddess? What's your thing?
It's definitely when I'm like holding space for people, when I'm facilitating circle or I'm on stage or I'm teaching. Like it's what like that is when that energy really comes out. Um yeah, and then it's like definitely when I'm on stage, when I'm teaching, like that's when I'm on, that's when I am like the energy really comes out. And then really when I'm in like ritual space, like truly, because I'm calling her in at that time and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, like I'm working through, you're working through me. I am a vessel, like come on down and like put it on out. And so it really does come out when I'm holding space for people.
I love that. And I felt that. I have felt that. I have been honored to be the recipient of that goddess energy. So thank you so much. The last thing I want people to, you said the ways they can work with you, but how can people find you? So I know on Instagram, I'm just going to be typing this in here. So on Instagram, you're at,
the underscore
you're
soul
going to
guide.
pop up right here in a minute
Yeah. So it's at
for
the
me. There
underscore
you
soul
are.
guide. So follow me here. The second
And then
best.
you have a flow page on there.
What?
You have like you have your page on there that
Yeah.
flows all your.
Yep. So go to my link tree because the next best way, and if not the best way, is actually going to be on my newsletter because I email out my podcast every week. I send out little love notes every once in a while, and that's where you get all the details on my upcoming events and like programs and experiences that I'm facilitating and things like that. So you definitely want to be on the email list for sure.
And you have this great new podcast. I found it on Spotify myself.
Spotify and it is on Apple. It is called the Real Happily Ever After podcast. And so it is all about like what really it takes to be happy instead of that fairy tale that we were sold that is like Prince Charming is coming, just lose your shoe and clean your house and he's coming. That is not how it works actually. Yes, you still have to clean your house. Yes, you still get to wear cute shoes, but Prince Charming is probably not coming. So
I have to say, as I was preparing, well, today as part of one of our kind of like daily rituals in our house, we have this mantra deck, like it's like happy, I don't know what it's called, but it's a mantra deck of like happy things. And the card that fell out for me today was the real happily ever after is you. And I was like, that's just so amazing. I love it. It was so awesome. It was the real happily ever after is you. And I thought that's just so perfect. Because I feel like when I haven't had the chance to like really listen to all your podcasts, but like knowing that like that's your intention is like your happily ever after doesn't have to be this fairy tale. It is a fairy tale, but it's like it can be real. And I love that. So all of the people, please, I know you had I feel it's terrible. You had such an amazing Instagram following, and then you had a horrible, traumatizing, those evil, hacky people.
It's all divine. It needed to happen.
But it's okay because it got you back into a space where your Instagram page is super intentional. And then I think another wonderful way to work with you would be to look into Swiha and consider it. Yes, it's amazing. It's so good.
If you want to be an intuitive guide, I teach and I hold that program. It's called Intuitive Guidance at Swiha. It's both online and on campus. I teach the on campus. And essentially, it's a 100-hour program to learn how to connect to your intuition, understand intuition, learn how to hold space for other people, to be an intuitive guide using things like astrology and oracle cards and tarot, herbal medicine. We do chakra balancing. We get introduced to shamanism in that class. So there's a whole bunch of different things. So if you're interested in learning how to actually be an intuitive guide in an ethical way, in a moral way, in a way that is very much grounded in the reality that we live in, definitely check out Swiha and enroll. We start September 16th.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to speaking to you more just to chat because I love you.
I love you too.
And thank you, Tuna, for your special guest appearances. And thank you for taking the time to be on here with me. I am so honored and blessed to know you and to share light with you. And I honor you and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It was so sweet.
Thank you for coming on.
So wonderful. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Bye, love.
Bye-bye.